Invisibility cloaks, quote unquote, may have protected from earthquakes in ancient Rome. This is what a study finds. It's on Sputnik. This is an amazing find, although a recently conducted study suggests that Roman architects are unlikely to have deliberately put a pattern underlying current metamaterial research into practice. They could have noticed certain regularities as time passed and introduced updates to an amphitheater's design and allowed a number of historic buildings to survive until today. They did it without knowing. Now, the scientists are engaged in designing real-world invisibility cloaks thanks to a special class of high-tech man-made metamaterials, that's what they're called. A team of French researchers suggested on ARXIV a collection of natural scientific preprints that some specific ancient structures, like the landmark Roman Coloseum that we see here, are remarkable for their similar architectural patterns, which they assumed might have protected them from earthquake damage ever since the world's largest amphitheater was erected. This one here was about 70 to 80 AD. It's classified as a type of so-called photonic band gap materials, a metamaterial, technically speaking, one whose inner structure can bend light in ways that are not typical, or stated otherwise, with an atypical index of refraction. What's understood by the latter is the ratio between the speed of light in a vacuum and the speed with which the upper part of the light wave penetrates space. It's a little bit technical, but you'll see what happens at the end against how this is used to protect against earthquakes. Now, while natural materials are estimated to have a positive index of refraction, certain man-made metamaterials which first saw the light of day in the early 2000s have a negative index of refraction, which means that light is bent around even very sharp angles, making such materials ideal for cloaking something. Unlike invisibility cloaks in fantasy stories, metamaterials do exist in reality, or at least in laboratories anyway, also being ideal for making so-called superlenses to better analyze small-scale objects. But for now, such promising materials are basically limited to specific wavelengths like microwaves, infrared light, as well as certain frequencies of sound waves. But most astonishingly, the principle can be used for controlling earthquake, seismic activity control. By redirecting the so-called shallow Rayleigh waves that typically inflict the worst structural damage to a building, metamaterials may make it possible to minimize the damages earthquakes and other natural disasters inflict on infrastructures. The idea is to surround a building with a lattice of holes or solid objects within the soil. When seismic waves within a certain range of wavelengths pass through the lattice, multiple reflections in the lattice interfere with one another destructively to create a band gap that results in a significant reduction in the shaking of the building. This is what Physics World reported describing this project. Several years ago, Lyon-based research co-author civil engineer Stéphane Brul and his Marseille colleagues demonstrated how large-scale acoustic and seismic cloaking can happen. They drilled a lattice of boreholes into the earth to find that sound waves reflected most of their energy backwards towards the source when they encountered the first two rows of holes. Brul subsequently noticed a similar structural patterns while holidaying in Athun in central France after taking a look at an aerial picture of the semicircular shape of a Gallo-Roman theater, an ancient amphitheater, buried underneath a field, which he revealed repeated those of other amphitheaters from the same era. Now, according to the French researcher, Roman engineers did not follow the pattern purposefully, but they may have noticed over time that such a structural architectural solution, in terms of shape, meant that the buildings were more resistant to natural cataclysms. He said, rigorously, we cannot say more for the moment. Okay, I guess that's the way everybody should be building their buildings. Semicircular, perhaps. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.